What's up, guys? Make sure you stick around to see what popped out of this motor and said hello, because we're gonna find some surprises in this thing to find out why it broke and what was wrong with it. You know what? I've made a decision. I don't like Caterpillar anymore because they're junk. Because this one broke. Junk. I'm gonna take this motor out. I'm gonna take this motor out. And I'm gonna take this motor out. And I'm gonna get them out of here. I'm gonna get all Cummins from now on because you don't have any problems with them. Junk. Big yellow junk. Boo! No, I'm just joking, of course. I'm always gonna be a cat guy. Oh, I can't believe I just said that. That I would throw all my cats away and get Cummins. Get that junk. Alright, anyway. Let's get a little serious here. Alright, so those of you who already watched my video on this 81 Peterbilt 359, you know that the engine, it's got a 3406A in it, and the engine is locked up. We were getting this engine out and putting the nice pretty yellow one in there, which is a B model. And, well, before I do that, I have to take all this stuff off, all these hoses and wires and all that stuff, and just start screwing around and dropping things off of it. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do to get the day started off right is I'm going to expose us to a little bit of radiation.
What's the matter with you?
Radiation from the radiator. See, that's probably part of the problem right there. They got green radiation in there. Unreal. You're supposed to have red radiation for Caterpillar. I don't really think that contributed to it though, because from what it sounds like, the previous owner pushed her a little bit too hard and she got a little bit too hot and she spun a main bearing. That's my prediction. Now look at this, I'm stuck. Man, I'm getting too old. I can't flex like I used to. Alright guys, well, we're making a little bit of headway here. Just popped the valve covers off. I kinda, like I said, not that I'm trying to fix this motor. I would like to rebuild this in the future to have as a core, or an extra rather. Well, it'll be a core now, but it'll be a parts motor. And I don't see any white milky sludge underneath these valve covers, which is nice. That's a good sign. Alright, here we go. Let's climb up here and see what we got. See if we can find any dropped valves or anything like that. This is the first time I'm looking at this. So this could be a reaction video, honestly. Alright, what do we got? We got 2 valves. We got 2 more. 2 more, 2 more, 2 more. 2 more. 2 valves. Two valves, two valves, two valves, two valves, and two valves. All right, so it appears that we did not drop a valve. All right, so I'm really happy about that, because if we drop the valve, chances are the cylinder head is destroyed and possibly other things are destroyed. Definitely a piston and all that stuff. And if you were paying attention in the last video, this cylinder head on this looks like it was either replaced or remanufactured or something like that, because there's white paint on the motor, there's white paint on everything else, but the cylinder head was rusty. You can see it more on the other side. I'm just too lazy to go under there. But so that really makes me happy. So it looks like if I ever need a cylinder head for one of the other cats, that I'll have one. These jakes look good. These are model 346B, so that's good. Yeah, and that really makes me happy, guys, because like I was saying in the other video, I got ripped off by that jerk down in Florida on the jakes that I bought for my orange truck, and I didn't get all the parts. And this is a complete set, and this motor is shot. So I mean, it's literally, I take these off and I put it on the International. I ain't got to worry about trying to chase stuff down. I ain't got to worry about seeing what's different. I'm just gonna, I'm gonna inspect it obviously, but I mean, I already have all the studs I need, the whatever you call these, the support brackets here. So which is really cool, because now I don't have to worry about trying to chase down parts. So all right, well, it looks like these jakes are in good shape, and it doesn't look like we dropped the valve, so I'm pretty happy about that. I think between dropping a valve and spinning a bearing, I would rather spin a bearing. I'm assuming it's a main bearing that spun though. It'd be nice if it was a rod bearing, because then the block would probably be fine. But if it spun a main bearing, there's a good chance that the block might be boogered up. Alright, I just drained a little bit of oil out of the bottom of the pan, and that's the verdict. We have a little bit of antifreeze in the oil. So, definitely sick. Definitely seen better days. It's not much though. There's only that little bit. Like probably like a quarter of a shot glass. Alright, well, I just stuck my finger in this hole and made one hell of a discovery. There is a massive chunk of something in there. And just by the way it feels like it's a main cap. So I'm gonna reckon that this block is probably junk. But we're gonna pull this oil pan off anyway and figure out what's going on. Because I was just thinking, once I get this motor out and put it on the stand, I'm not gonna be able to pull the pan off. So if I want to pull the pan off, now's the time to do it. I just pulled all this crap out of the little drain hole. Bunch of plastic inside the motor. And then this little piece of cast iron. So, I don't know. Looks like somebody put something down in there or something that shouldn't have been and paid dearly for it. Alright guys, well, time to see what the bag of goodies has to offer. I was right, it was a cap, but it wasn't a main cap. It was actually a rod cap. And yeah, we definitely spun a bearing. A little much so. Alright, so I want to tell a real funny story really quick. So yesterday, I was under this thing trying to pull the starter out. And I'm a cat fanatic, so I know where all the bolts are to the starter. So I went to stick my extension in between the starter and the block like you normally would, and for some reason I couldn't get the socket and the extension back. Of course, we're talking up in here. There's the starter, but anyways, we're talking laying under the truck. Well, so something was blocking the extension in the socket from going all the way back to the rear bolt that holds the starter in. So you probably already know where I'm going with this. So let's check something out. All right, there we have it. So there's the starter right there. Well, the reason I couldn't get the extension back to get the rear bolt in the starter is because there's a rod sticking through the block into the starter, blocking the bolt. I don't know how good you can see that, but yeah, there's the rod right there, sticking right through the side of the block. I don't really know, can't really get too many good angles on it here, but yeah, so I was really hoping the block at least was going to be good on this because I wanted a nice rebuildable engine. Well, the crank, this crank is totally wasted. It's like black and blue all the way from there, all the way to that main cap, to that main cap, to that main cap. It's all like discolored. So that explains why it's locked up, because it got so hot that it just seized these up most likely. There's the piston right there, and there was definitely some crank to piston meet up here for sure. So we definitely got some pretty good carnage going on. Wow. Yeah, there's the problem. That's why she let go. All right, so another funny story. So when I bought not that any of this matters, I bought this truck knowing that it had a blown motor in it. When I bought this truck, the owner, the guy that I bought it from, told me that, what I believe he told me is it started knocking and he shut it right down and it started smoking. Well, the guys that worked on this truck, I had a little chat with them because I had to go down there a couple times to set up towing and stuff to get this moved. But they told me that he broke down about a mile from their shop. The truck started knocking, he shut it off, and then he said, well, what should I do? And they were like, well, I don't know. And I guess, needless to say, the guy didn't want to get the truck towed. So what he ended up doing is starting it back up and driving it a mile all the way to the shop with a trailer on the back. So it sounds like it started as a spun bearing, and then he drove it a mile with a trailer, a full loaded dump trailer on the back, probably at least 30 ton in there. And then supposedly by the time he actually got to the shop where this thing took its final rest, I guess there was so much smoke. They said that there was so much smoke that you couldn't even see the truck, and that motor was knocking so bad. I guess they were afraid to stand next to it. So that just goes to show the importance right there of when you hear a noise, just shut the damn thing off. And you know, if he would have just shut it off and left it alone as soon as it started knocking, it probably would have just been a simple, you know, spun bearing and a new rod, and you know, possibly getting the crank turned. But now the entire engine is junk. And that's pretty much what I would have figured anyway after I seen this, because this bearing didn't just spin and shut it down. This bearing spun and he just kept right on running it, which is exactly what the other guys told me. This ain't just a spun bearing. This bearing ran for a mile after it got spun. And then it broke the bolts off of the cap, the rod cap, and then caused all hell to break loose. So yeah, I mean, these motors tell their own story. You know, you don't even have to get anybody's input or anybody to tell you what happened. If you know what you're looking for, the motor itself will tell you exactly what happened. And And that's what happened. They didn't even have to tell me that. I would have known that that spun a bearing, and then they just kept driving it. Because you either spin a bearing or you blow a rod through the side of the block. And usually when it's both, it's because you spun the bearing and you just kept right on going, or you couldn't shut it down fast enough, or whatever. The main thing is that it spun a bearing and it didn't get shut down. So, well, that's probably going to change my plans a little bit on this motor, guys. I was hoping that it was just going to be just a simple spun bearing and no damage to the block, no damage to the crank. Or, you know, I mean, I was expecting some damage to the crank, but that crank is completely wasted. So this block and this crank are completely non-rebuildable. They're garbage. So that actually kind of makes it easy. So what my plans are now is, see, the head, hopefully everything from the head up is good. I really hope the piston, after it broke off of the crank, didn't like come up and smash the valves or anything like that. But I think what I'm going to do now is just I'm going to pull this whole motor apart while it's in the truck, and then put the head and all the parts somewheres, and then pull just the block and the crank, just the rotating assembly out. I'll probably figure out what else I can take off, and then like the block and the crank and this, whatever I'm not going to use, just scrap it. Like the injection pump, the air compressor, the whole gear drive, anything that I can use on this or even sell, I'm going to keep. So it looks like just the block and the crank are really the only things I'm going to scrap. But, rather than having a giant motor just sitting around, I think I'm just going to pull everything off and just put all the parts somewheres, and that way I can have extra parts if I need them. And then that'll make it simple too, because if I pull the head off and I find out that the head's junk, well, I can get rid of that too. I ain't got to have all this garbage laying around for nothing. So that kind of makes it easy, but it's kind of a shame because I was really hoping to rebuild this motor someday, but it is what it is. Like I said, I'm not really disappointed. I mean, I'm disappointed that the motor's not rebuildable, but it's not anybody's fault. I mean, I bought the truck knowing that it had a bad motor in it, and that's the reason I got such a good deal on it. So, it is what it is. All right, so far we got most of the hoses off. I got the power steering pump, the power steering reservoir off, and now I'm going to take this air compressor off. But I got a problem because there's a bolt up in there and my straight wrench will not fit on it. That's okay, because I got a set of torches. And with torches you can make anything you want. You can't do that! That's not the right tool for the job. You gotta buy the $300 3/4 bent wrench from Snap-on. Nah guys, we don't do that around here. I don't buy anything from Snap-on. I make everything. I'll figure it out. Alright, let's get this one out of here. And let's try this one. Ha! No, look at that, it's already loose. Look at that. Well, there it is. Came right off. Look at that, I got a tool for life now. Sweet. Air compressor delete. We don't need this. We're just gonna run hydraulic brakes. Does not want to get evicted.
Come on, man! What you gonna do?
Does not want to get evicted. Just gotta pry a little bit. Gotta pry. I already took, there's a oil hose down here, and I took it off already. Oh, what are you fighting me for? Come on. I told you we were gonna get pissed at this new truck. There's an oil hose. I disconnected it, but it's not giving me enough room to get this compressor out, so I guess I'm gonna have to take it off down there, and then the eviction will be served. There. Man. All that for that stupid hose. It took me like 20 minutes to get this hose off. All right, after another hour of trying to get this thing off the bottom, let's see if we're ready now. There we go. All right, try not to spill bodily fluids all over. I really want to go through this truck and do a nice job on it. What I mean by that is I want to get this motor out and get this engine bay all opened up. I want to go through all this bullshit that somebody's spent years doing and rip all this nonsense out, all these wires and stuff that are going to start a fire. I don't need this anymore. I don't need like 90% of this crap anymore. 1,600 miles of wire coiled up and just garbage, just stupidity. That's basically going to end up burning this thing up. I mean, all this crap, it's all going to go. It's all nonsense. So that's the method to the madness. So I want to lighten this motor up enough to where my skid steer can get it out. And then that way I don't have to rent the machine to get this one out and then rent it again to get the new one in. I only have to rent it once to get the new motor in. Seems to be a camera eclipse going on. Alright, we got this after cooler ready to pull. Alright, well that wasn't bad. I figured this thing was going to weigh about 18,000 pounds. Being from Caterpillar, it's probably a good 60 to 70 though. Alright, well we got the starter out. Now I know why nothing was happening when I was trying to crank it. Yeah, you know, this sucks. That looks like a nice new remanufactured starter too. Unreal. I mean, I'm sure it's still rebuildable, but she's pretty wasted at this point. And behind door number 1, there you have it. There is the connecting rod through the block where the starter was. That's why I had a hard time getting that bolt out. You already seen the inside, but there it is again. It's funny seeing stuff like this because you're not supposed to see stuff like this that often, but it happens. Oh yeah. Well, guys, there it is. It's finally got a sailboat gas engine in it. Looks so weird without a hood or engine or anything in it. Just a frame with a cab on it, pretty much. Nice. So yeah, that was got this motor and transmission and pretty much everything out in like 2 days. Saturday and a Sunday. Today is Sunday night, so lot of work, and had to take the engine all apart to get it out to lighten it up enough for my machine to lift it. Those 22 head bolts that were torqued to like 400 foot-pounds really kicked my ass getting those out, I tell you what. Ooh. And yeah, so I'm just like really tired right now. I just took a nap because this kicked my ass pretty bad. I really hustled the process getting this motor out. But so anyway, the next project is, I think I decided I am going to uproot all these wires and hoses and rip all this garbage out, and I'm gonna rewire this truck. I'm not gonna go crazy. I'm not gonna hook up all them stupid lights and all this garbage. Just senseless nonsense is what it is. And all these hoses I'm gonna go through and probably eliminate like half of them. You know, all the bells and whistles that were on this thing, I just don't need it. It's just more stuff to go wrong. But there is just so much. I know I've said that a million times with this truck, but now that the motor's out, you can really see down in there, and it's just it's a cobweb of just hoses and wires, and just there's wires hanging. You probably can't even see a lot of them on camera, but there's just wires hanging everywhere. I'm not gonna put the pyrometer in. You know, the pyrometer is for monkeys that are pushing everything to their limits, kind of like this truck was. You know, I don't plan on turning this thing up or getting any crazy power out of it. That kind of stuff's just ridiculous to do on a road truck. You know, unless you're racing it or something like that, just leave the pump and all that stuff alone. You know, a pyrometer's not a bad thing, but what I'm going to be doing with this, I'm not going to get it hot enough to worry about. You know, there is just so much. I've never seen a vehicle before with so much just senseless garbage, just nonsense. You know, these stupid dumb lights are going to come off. All this flashy stuff, it just doesn't need it. You know, all this crap. Look at this. It just a complete chaos. Wires everywhere. When I first got this thing, I opened up the dash and I looked in there, and there's bare wires just twisted together, and it's just a complete mess. I've really never seen a truck with so much cobbleness going on. So very, very, very less of this wiring is going to be put back in. And also, we are going to pressure wash this frame. My plan is to get this green paint match. I want to paint the firewall green, paint the frame black, do all this all nicey nice. I got a nice motor. This is a nice truck. It just needs some TLC. Also, one of the main selling points of this truck, guys, as I stated before, was now I have a complete 100% complete set of Jake brakes and rockers and just every single thing that you need to put Jakes on my A model and my 69 International. So now I have a 100% complete set. I don't have to scurry around trying to find mismatched parts and all this other crap, which really makes me excited. That was one of the first things that I noticed with this truck, was that it had a complete set of Jakes on it. The motor's blown perfect. I could take the Jakes off, put them on the International. That's gonna be a later date though. I got bigger fish to fry. So here, oh, you never have enough room. It started raining earlier, so I had to put everything inside. So we'll start the assembly line from first to last there. But here's the long block. Of course, it's getting dark. I'll do some of this in the next video, guys, what we can't see. it's getting late. I have a super busy week coming up, and I just don't have time to go through things with really big details right now. I actually have my hat light on me, go figure. Anyway, this piston came up and smacked the valves, and I don't know if you can see it or not, but that piston is split right in half. That piston went full Harbor Freight on us. So this block is junk. It's got, now that the motor's out, you can really see the hole right here with the rod sticking through it where the starter used to go. There's where the starter used to go. So really all I got to do now is switch these motor mounts, this rear motor mounts and the front motor mount, over to the new motor. The new motor already has a motor mount on it, but that was in one of those trucks where the motor was slanted slightly. So but yeah, here's the, I mean, everything else looks pretty decent on it. The liners even still have cross hatching and everything, and I bet you this motor probably ran pretty good before it got blown up. I forgot to take a video when I had this head up in the air, guys, but I was in a hurry. I was hot and pissed off, and I just got through taking all them head bolts off, and I was just over it. I was like literally ready to collapse. But anyway, it doesn't look like it damaged the head. You could definitely see where the piston hit it, but you know, this head definitely looks good, but simply because the piston came in contact with it, I wouldn't want to just put it on a truck. I would definitely want to have it refurbished professionally and you know, magnafluxed or whatever they do to make sure there's no cracks in it and stuff. But I do believe that this head is still good and perfectly rebuildable, and would not hesitate to put this on a truck if it needed it, if it wasn't for that piston hitting the top of it. Doesn't look like I got any bent valves, but it never looks like you have a bent valve. All they got to do is bend just a little bit, and that's all it takes. So all right, third in row here is our 13-speed transmission. Tons and tons and tons of oil. Looks like we were running a wet clutch on this, guys. I don't know. See, when this thing blew up, rumor has it that the guy still drove like a mile somehow after that blew a rod through, and there's just oil everywhere. So it's hard to say if we're running a wet clutch on this, or if the oil is actually from where we blew the rod through the block. I'm not sure if that seal in there is bad or what, but everything in there looks pretty good. Don't see anything big to worry about inside the transmission. PTO and all that stuff look pretty good. Radiator. Guys, this radiator is freaking in good shape, thankfully. So hopefully keep the chickens off of it by putting a cardboard on there, because they like to come in here and hang out. Throw a tarp over the rest of this nonsense. Definitely looks like some pump work or something's been done to it at one point, just because this pump has yellow paint all over it, and this cat engine block itself and everything else is all white. Same thing goes with the oil cooler over here. Definitely had a new water pump on that. I confirmed that with the owner, previous owner, and didn't know anything about the oil cooler. But yeah, some stuff's definitely been done with this engine in the past. Looks like it was a good running engine too. I mean, the guy that owned the truck before me, he did tell me, he's like, yeah, I was pushing it a lot harder. I think he ran like I think his previous job or something, he ran like a ISX 600 Cummins or whatever, which I'm sure has way more horsepower than an A model cat, you know, and he was lugging it. See, the earlier cats, they like to be up there in the RPMs, you know, they'll run 2200 all day, where like the newer C15s and stuff like that, they don't mind being lugged down to, you know, 1400 in a hard pull. But the earlier ones, they like the speed, you know. Like my A model in this thing, you know, if I'm pulling up a hill or something, I just let it scream, you know. Keep the oil pressure up. There's no sense in getting everything too hot. You know, it'll pull a hill in a higher gear and lugging it down, but to me it's easier just to drop one more gear and just be easy on it. Especially when you're broke like me and poor, you don't have money to fix stuff. Yeah, there's the starter too. I'm sure I already showed that, but yeah, that rod went right through the block, right into the starter. Man, this garage is a freaking mess. I just cleaned this garage and everything. Oh, everything's all over the place, man. I got the hood stuffed in here. I literally can't even get through here now, so we're just gonna peep back here. There's the drive shaft. There's a Chelsea PTO. There's the new motor. There's the old turblet that came out. It actually still looks like it's in good shape. Got the hood in here. Got the flywheel. Actually, rumor has it too that he just put a new clutch on this thing as well, and I'm not going to argue with that. I'm going to hold the light and the camera at the same time. I'm not going to argue with that because this clutch, definitely looks like it's got a lot of life left into it. Intermediate plate, there's no like deep ridge or anything on that, barely. This flywheel looks like it was just ground. I sprayed some lubricating oil on it, that way when I put it back together it'll hopefully help the clutch from wearing out a little. Figured some lubrication, you know, will help the clutch from wearing out too fast. But got the balancer, that looks pretty good. Usually those get pretty wobbly on these old cats, but this one, I don't know because I didn't run, but it doesn't look bad at all. So, and this is one of those easy pedal clutches too, where you just turn the little, I think it's a 5/8 nut, and you push it in and you turn it just like a slack adjuster to adjust it. And those are way better than them old style ones. Got a new alternator out of the deal. Hopefully it actually works. Nice looking aftercooler. And yeah, we got so many parts. I'm gonna start being like a cat engine part dealer or something by the looks of it. Air compressor looks like it's in good shape. Nice air fan hub right here. All the head bolts. We got everything, guys. You've got 4 batteries. Got this probably $2,000 hydraulic pump just laying on the ground. Why not, you know? Oh yeah, look at this. I can't believe this truck, with all the wiring nonsense on this truck, I can't believe this truck hasn't burned. Honestly, the fact that the motor blew up is probably a good thing. Look at this. And I believe this was on the hot side too. I'm pretty sure when I took that apart. I kind of didn't notice it, but you can actually see the battery box where it was arcing out a little bit. Man, that's one of the main lugs that come off the batteries. That's crazy, crazy, crazy. Just pulled this whole shebang right off in one piece. We ain't got time to mess around. Transmission tower up in there and all that, but alright guys, well I'm not going to spoil it too much on you. We got a lot of work to do on this old girl coming up in the next few weeks. So if you're not subscribed, make sure you do yourself a favor and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss anything we got going on with this cool Peterbilt 359. Because when it's done, it's going to be one sweet ride, and I can't wait to drive it for the first time. And I want you guys to go along with me. So until then, we will see you in the next video. Take care, and thanks for watching.